Hi, I'm John Smith. I'm the founder and CTO of LiveAction. So LiveAction simplifies the network. We're a network management company. We do network performance monitoring. We started in 2006 with Department of Defense contracts, doing research. 2014 became a Cisco solution partner. So we have thousands of customers, some in the global 2000. So some of the largest enterprises in the world use our product. In 2017, we bought a company called Living Objects. So we do service provider as well as enterprise. And our investors are Insight partners, but also Cisco. So we had like 3 rounds of investment, and Cisco has invested in all of those. Just want to announce that last week we purchased a company called Savius, and you might know them as Wild Packet. So very experienced, 25 years of network packet analytics, over 6,000 customers. So we find that as a very good synergy with our product, and I'll go over our product line and how that fits in. So this is our platform. So we have LiveNX for enterprise, and we have LiveSP for service provider. So the service provider side is like if you have 100,000 CPEs and you're doing tier 1 service provider, you would use that product. But for this purposes, we're going to be concentrating on LiveNX for enterprise. And I'll go through each of these different types of modules that we have as part of the platform. So just quickly, we have the Omniappliance Omnipeek from the Savius acquisition, so doing packet capture and analytics. Live Insight is a predictive analytics for the machine learning, and I'll go into a little bit more depth of that. Live Agents is the ability to get visibility from the endpoints. And then Live UX, I won't talk in more detail, but it's more about doing synthetic tests. So doing page load, ping, and trace route from agents that you can install in your enterprise, or we have global agents that you can run that from as well. And the final piece is really the Live NCA, so network configuration and automation. So I'll dig deeper into the architecture and how all this fits together. So these are some of the use cases that we solve for our customers. And I'm not going to go through each one of them, but some of the primary ones that customers use is understanding application performance from a networking point of view. So being able to tell and triage, is this an application or a network issue? And we leverage the telemetry that we get from the network to do that. Voice video is always a favorite with our customers, so they use Skype and WebEx, and they want to understand the quality and performance of that. And we spent over a decade doing QoS monitoring and configuration, so everything related to CBQoS, MIB, MQC, we can do all of that and understand that. SD-WAN, so there's a whole different section that we'll cover on SD-WAN, but we've been working with iWAN and SD-WAN for many years. And the new one is root cause analysis. So with the packet capabilities, we can really dig down to the details of what's really causing the problem. So that's an additional use case that we added. Just overall, this is our architecture from a high-level view of how everything fits together. So these data sources are key, where you see a lot of NPMD products, network performance monitoring and diagnostics. They're really good at flow, or they're really good at packets, but not really both. So that's one of the reasons why we acquired Savius, is to provide our customers the ability to see both. And I think one of the things that we hear is they have packet analysis tools, but they want to get an overall view of what's happening in the network, not necessarily at the packet level. So the flow kind of complements how the packets work together. And we'll show you some of that as well as we keep going here. And so we do traditional SNMP, V2, V3. We've been doing that for over a decade. So we can discover over 107 vendors. Not all of them are still existing, but there are many out there. We can make any custom OID polar for any MIB that you have out there. But API is actually very critical. So as we connect to these different types of fabrics and controllers, if you don't understand the context and policy, they tend to become a black box. Like, what is that virtual network? So we can get context into that. Next slide. So these are some of the example data sources that we can gather from different parts of the network. It's not exhaustive, but just a sampling. So we can get packets from Wi-Fi. So the Savius acquisition, the Omniappliance, they have a Wi-Fi adapter, so you can grab packets off of that. IP fix from endpoints, but also from routers and switches, and the traditional SNMP as well. But you can grab packets from different parts. It could be TAP, SPAN, or inline as well. But we also do very in-depth NetFlow, or IP fix. So things like Cisco AVC, we can do that. But we're also multi-vendor. So if you have Palo Alto Networks, we can crack open that app ID and see exactly what's happening there as well. We'll grab QoS and CLI information where it's necessary, but also SD-WAN API, so we can actually talk to like the vManage controller and understand what the policies are and performance. S-Flow in the data center, also IPFix. And UX test is that synthetic testing capability that I mentioned. So what we're seeing is, customers really need different types of telemetry to understand. So one of the things we found is the network says everything is fine, but the user experience is bad. We could use that UX test to check the page load, for example.
With the UX test, are you using RUM data?
To some extent. We do a full page load to the SaaS URL site. So we can tell on a per item basis in that page load what the...
But are you able to ingest RUM as well?
I don't think we do that directly, no.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then as you see all the different fabrics that are being put in place in the access, WAN, and data center, having that API to understand what's happening in those controllers become important. This is a quick overview of our platform. So you'll have the network infrastructure at the bottom layer. So like I mentioned, the different types of telemetry that are there. And then we have a big data backend. So we spent a lot of time building this backend to absorb streaming flow at a very high rate. And it's in a distributed manner where you can put collectors in different parts of the network and bring that back to a central server. And on top of that is really the analytics, so including machine learning and predictive analytics. And I'll talk a little bit more in depth of how we do that. And at the very top layer is our visualization, and we call it visual analytics. So we spend a lot of time on how we visualize the network. We find that very important for our customers. And the various different integrations, so things like ServiceNow. So we see a lot of customers integrating to ticketing systems like ServiceNow. And all of this is available in a virtual appliance format, so it can run on VMware, Hyper-V. Also, we have an AWS image as well in Azure. And also as a physical appliance, so if you want to buy it as a physical appliance, you can do that as well. Just on the Savius portion, so it's Omniappliance and Omnipeek. So physical appliance, 110, 40 gig interfaces, various ways to ingest that. Intelligent packet capture, so they've been doing it for like 25 years, so they're very good at it. But also real-time analytics, so as the packets come in, they can stream data about application performance and other data back to our system. And the second part of that is really the Omnipeek. So it's more like Wireshark on steroids. So if you want to do really deep packet analysis, understand what all the conversations are, be able to record and play back all those packets, you could do that with the Omnipeek capabilities. So on the left-hand side, you'll see that I'm going through the different modules. So on the Live Insight, we kind of understood that with the amount of data that we're gathering, and we needed to leverage machine learning to be able to predict if there's issues happening. And traditionally, we've done like statistical analysis, but the parameters and the values that we get back, they don't necessarily have a statistical distribution. They're not normal distribution. So just with the volume of data, we found that machine learning helps us to identify which dimensions of that data is important and then be able to find patterns. Otherwise, the statistical ones were actually just creating more and more alerts that wasn't useful for our customers. And one interesting thing that we did was this human in the loop, where once we show an anomaly, you could tell us that this is actually not an anomaly for us, and we can feed that back into our model so that the model becomes more intelligent. We also have this live agent capability, so we can actually put an agent in any Linux, Windows, or Mac OS system, and it can run on VM, containers, servers. And what we're trying to do is get more visibility from the endpoint. So it's great that we can do routers and switches and other network devices, middleware that exports flow. But with this, we can actually get information about the process, the network usage by that process, who's the user that's logged in, the actual applications, and also the signature of that process that was executed. So it has security implications, but also visibility to the endpoints, which our customers really like. Just real quick, this is what our deployment looks like. So you'll see that in the data center on premises, you could run the LiveNX server. And then you can put nodes into different parts of the network, so data center, campus, cloud, for example. So it's a distributed collection and going back to the server. You can flip this, so you could put the LiveNX server in the cloud. It could be AWS or Azure if you wanted to. So it's pretty flexible for our customers and how they want to deploy. And if you have sites that are a small number of devices, we can pull and collect net flow directly from these sites as well. So that's what some of our retail customers do. Is, they don't necessarily put a node there, but they'll do polling directly from all the different sites. With the Omni appliance, we found that there's actually gaps in our visibility in different parts of the network. So using the packet to flow capabilities, we increase the visibility. And it fits into our node infrastructure where if it's part of a particular cloud or particular domain, they can send that information to node and bring it all back to the server as well. So it's pretty complementary. Just real quick, this is our data processing architecture, and I'll build out what that processing architecture looks like. So just starting off initially with the high-speed data. So these are more IP fixed, SNMP less so, but also any kind of streaming data we can bring into the nodes. And you can have multiple of these nodes deployed across the network. And there's a collector, and there's a streaming analytics portion. And there's a big data part that I mentioned, so we can store at very fast rates. So we've actually clocked it at 1 million flows per second. Most customers have it at like 100,000 flows per second, but we can write that raw. And we also aggregate it for longer term reporting. So that's part of the node. And then it sends it up to the LiveNX server. So with multiple nodes, it'll do streaming analytics through our API and messaging streams if there's any events that are happening. And it'll do batch analytics like reporting. So if you're doing capacity planning or particular type of reports, we'll do the batch analytics portion of it. And there's different types of data store existing on the LiveNX server. We also have low-speed data. So what we're seeing more and more is that as you interface to things like SD-WAN and controllers, getting that context about tunnels, BFD and performance data, SLAs, and the virtual network information helps our customers understand this data set more. So having those two combination is actually pretty important. And WMI is for Active Directory identity information. And we also interface with ICE and PX Grid for identity information as well. And all that gets brought up into LiveNX server. And then we have the cloud analytics part of this. So this is hosted in our public cloud, but we don't use AWS specific. We use open source. So if you ever had to move it to another cloud provider, we can. And we run machine learning and have different types of predictive models there as well. And there's a different data store there as well. And all that feeds into different types of applications. So you can have a network operator view. So we realize that as customers deploy things like SD-WAN, they want to operationalize it so the network operators can leverage that. So we have customizable alerts and dashboards. And we have a much more deeper engineering applications, which is interactive and has a topology view that you can actually zoom in. And we'll show you that in our demo section. And the last two pieces are the high-speed wire data. So this is feeding into the Omni appliance that I mentioned earlier that we acquired. So it'll do packet capture, but it'll do streaming flow analytics on the packet, and it'll feed it into our streaming analytics into our node server. So it actually is very complementary into our different architecture. And the last piece I'll mention is the low-speed UX test, so the synthetic task. So providing all that telemetry actually gives a pretty good picture for our customer. Just a quick roadmap of where we're going. So we're evolving in terms of like multi-vendor coverage. So as there's new vendors, we add coverage for that, and we're working on better and improved workflows as well. But the growth areas are really integrating to SD-WAN and SDX systems. So we see more SD-WAN deployments now coming up. So we're working with Cisco and other partners as well. MSP and service provider. So we're seeing service provider adopting things like SD-WAN as services that they sell to their customers. So we see growth in that area. And our big bets is really our visual analytics. So how do you take all these different types of telemetry and make sense of it? And we'll show you a taste of that in our demonstration of like how do you take different data sets from APIs to SNMP and IP fix and packet and bring it all together that's easy to digest for the operator. And the last piece is machine learning and predictive analytics. So that's the overview of our company. Thank you very much.